the Chief Justice, you can address those problems.
Yes, Your Honor, but of course, always with the embankment, Your Honor.
Of course, of course. Oh. In what case in which you were the ponente, did you demonstrate your judicial philosophy? What is your justification for your judicial philosophy in that ponencia of yours?
Well, in that potential of mine, I would say that that was just a original interpretation of the Constitution, that we have a Bill of Rights, and that if there is no law, then the DOJ could not issue, could not bar people from leaving our country.
That was in the Genuino case?
Yes, Your Honor.
De Lima versus...
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And your judicial philosophy there, in which you...
Well, my philosophy on that part is just a plain reading of the Constitution, which is textual in nature, or as they say, an originalist, or as they would say, a exercise of judicial restraint, because we don't interpret the Constitution more than what it means, Your Honor.
For which ponencia would you think you could be acknowledged for your intellectual leadership? The last two questions were sent in by one of your colleagues.
Well, I had a concurring opinion in the LEB case, Your Honor.
LGBT.
The law school.
LEB. LEB case.
Yes, Your Honor.
The PhilSat.
Yes.
Yes.
In that case, during the oral arguments, I showed the trend to the court that other than a student who wants to be a lawyer, there are people who just wants to be a student of law. They don't want to be a lawyer, but they just want to go to law school and study the law. And I said that we are barking on the wrong tree if we're talking about allowing people not to enter law school because of an exam. When a person just wants to go to law school to be a student of the law. So I said there is a misplaced emphasis on the student who wants to be a lawyer. So during the oral arguments, I brought that up, that there are two facets to education. One is just to study the law.
Your
or maybe
views were adopted by the ponente?
But
Your views were adopted by the ponente?
yes, Your Honor. But I also had my own concurring opinion to emphasize that we should allow access to education, because people may just want to study. They don't want to pass. They just want to study. They just want to go to medical school to study. They don't want to be a doctor. So why should we bar them from going to law school and enrolling? Anyway, it's their own time. It's their own money.
From the writings which you submitted to us, it appears that you are conservative. Are you a conservative?
Well, Your Honor, I was looking at the Constitution, and there is the word divine providence. So I would like to have a interpretation of our laws and of our country's purpose is that we have to be guided by divine providence. So in line with that, perhaps I could be called a conservative, because I would adhere to Judeo-Christian values of family and honor and honesty and respect for all people, respect for your neighbors, respect for the property rights of the other, living in peace with your neighbors, not stealing. I would go for those old traditional values.
How about with respect to the rules? Are you liberal or strict?
Your Honor, the rules can, there is a theory that the Constitution should be interpreted as its text would mean. And there's the other theory that a Constitution is a living document and should be adjudged on the basis of contemporary society. So that we have
So
to
you
judge
believe in the living-
action based on the society now.
You're a believer of the living Constitution.
Your Honor,
Be a judicial activist.
it would be...
Just following up your answer.
Yes, Your Honor. You could be an activist and also be exercising judicial restraint. Because our Constitution, unlike the U.S. Constitution, has two systems involved in it. One is capitalism, one is socialism. So we have to be activists on one part or be unrestrained on the other part.
From our records, it appears that you did not agree with the ponente in the case of the PAL employees. Can you explain your dissent?
Yes, Your Honor, because under our rules, a second MR cannot be entertained, and once a judgment is final, it is final, and it would have to be in the embark before we do it again. So I went with the minority, Your Honor.
In your view, you joined the minority because of a technicality.
Yes, Your Honor.
How about on the merits of the case? What was your position?
On the merits of the case, Your Honor, it would appear that PAL really suffered some losses, Your Honor. But as mentioned in some forum, we need to filter the work of the Supreme Court. And the filtering is that second MRs are not allowed. Otherwise, the court will be burdened with a lot of cases for the second MR and third MR. And I think in this case, the MR has to be addressed to the clerk of court, and the clerk of court could recommend dismissal. But in the PAL case, if I remember correctly, it was just a piece of paper that was the object of the reconsideration. So this was going around the filtering mechanism of the Supreme Court.
Do you mean it was not a pleading that initiated the third motion for
It was
reconsideration?
just a letter, Your Honor.
Some members of the cabinet have expressed the belief that in times of emergency, the Constitution can be suspended in favor of executive power. Do you agree? And can you give the reason for your answer?
Your Honor,
This
power
was
must,
also sent by one of your colleagues.
the power must be delegated by Congress to the President to exercise emergency powers, Your Honor.
So you agree that the Constitution can be suspended?
No, Your Honor,
I will repeat the question. Some members of the cabinet have expressed the belief that in times of emergency, the Constitution can be suspended in favor of executive power. Do you agree?
no, Your Honor.
Can you explain why?
Because, Your Honor, if you suspend the Constitution, it would be something like martial law. But in martial law, Congress still exists. So if you suspend the Constitution, there'll be no Congress. So it does not follow. So if you suspend the Constitution, you suspend Congress, what are you suspending? There is no more government. There is practically a change of government, Your Honor.
Earlier, you mentioned that because of the traffic, you want that the filing time for pleadings be extended up to 9 o'clock. Is that correct? Did I hear it?
I would suggest, Your Honor.
Okay.
But I don't know if that is...
Are you in favor of a 4-day work week for the judiciary with extended hours?
No, Your Honor. No, Your Honor.
Can you state your reason?
It would not look nice if we have... maybe I will still look at the caseload of the judiciary, but at this point in time, we have a lot of cases, and for us now to have 4 days of work week will look so unpopular to the public, Your Honor. I think the court should function 5 days a week.
Okay. When you were appointed to the Supreme Court, what was your caseload?
I think, Your Honor, the initial caseload was 666.
666.
Yes, Your Honor. Then
Now-
after 2 months, they was unloaded another 300. So it became 900, Your Honor.
900.
Yes, sir.
So presently you have 900.
Yes, Your Honor.
Can you finish that before you retire?
I think so, Your Honor, because by February, I would have no more raffle of cases. So
Because of that.
yes, maybe, because I will not be receiving any cases. So from February to March, I will be working on those cases with me, and perhaps I can finish half of them, and from now up to December, we could still work.
I ask you that because in the JBC there is a proposal. It's still a proposal, but it has passed the Execom that for the Supreme Court they should be able to work for at least 2 years. Do you agree with that? Because you are now in the Supreme Court. Do you agree with that view that they could work for at least 2 years? And the JBC will at the time of the application with the JBC, has 2.5 years more to go. What is your view on that? You will be, should you be appointed as the Chief Justice, you will be the chairman of the JBC. What is your view?
I will ask the committee, and if that is your collective decision, I'll join the collective decision of the JBC regular members.
What is your personal view? Because you will be our chairman.
Yes, Your Honor. My personal view is that it is laudable.
In view of your experience in the Supreme Court.
Yes, Your Honor. It's laudable and has a good noble purpose, and I would agree with it.
What rules in the internal rules of the JBC would you propose to improve or to be amended?
There is none, Your Honor. I said I've dealt with the JBC all these years, and I never complained, and I always said that it's all right.
Time is almost up. I'll give you this opportunity to say what you want to say, pursuant to your aspiration of a Chief Justice.
Yes, Your Honor, I am a career worker in the judiciary from MTC to RTC, Court of Appeals, presiding justice, and now associate justice of the Supreme Court. I thank the JBC for this opportunity, and I thank you for your kind questions. And this will be my last interview for a judicial position. But I know that I have another interview, the interview up there. And I would like to tell those people when I interviewed that I have served with honesty and truthfulness and fairness, and I have obeyed God's law in that last interview that I will have. Thank you, Your Honors.
Thank you very much, Justice. You are excused.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Honor, and good luck.
At natapos na nga po ang public interview kay Associate Justice Andres Reyes Jr. At sa pagkakataong ito, makakasama naman po natin si Attorney Maris Manalo. Attorney.
Yeah, magandang hapon sa iyo, Cesar, at magandang hapon po sa mga nanonood ngayon at nakasubaybay. Pangatlo na to.
Yeah.
And ang susunod naman natin later si Justice Bernabe,
Pero
diba?
tatanong ko lang,
Okay.
most of the questions point to the nominees' capabilities to lead for the reforms of the judiciary, yung mga personal na mga handling nila sa buhay nila. Bakit ganon? Ba't ganon ang line of questioning?
Well, siyempre, more or less sa aming mga abogado, you know, yung decision-making mo, somehow, affects yung personal life eh.
Yeah.
Although lagi mo iniiwas yan. Kaya nga minsan, di ba, tinatanong kanina si Justice Reyes tungkol dun sa bakit pababa ng pababa yung yung kita mo, yung pera mo. Parang dati 22 million, ay 27, naging pababa ng pababa. Kasi po, nagpa-anal na ako. So, magastos pag may asawa. Tama ba yun?
And maybe because that's one of the strategy para maungkat, mag-grill sila kung ano yung mga personal na buhay nila,
Yeah,
right?
somehow. Diba? Kasi hanggat maaari po, kaming mga abogado, lalo na mga huwes, nakatago dyan ang kanilang public, ang kanilang personal na buhay. Especially, you know, si Justice Andres Reyes is already 69 years old.
Attorney, we have to go back. Ang
Okay.
muling sasalang po sa public interview ngayong araw ay si Associate Justice Estela
23.
Bernabe. Tubong Plaridel po siya, Bulacan. Si Justice Bernabe, na-appoint siya bilang Associate Justice noong 2011.
Please tell us your caseload as of July 31, 2019.
I have 266 judicial cases, Your Honor.
Okay, and monthly disposition of cases, how many?
Around, I don't have any backlog anymore, so it's just around 40 to 50.
14 to 15, okay. Thank you for that information. Okay, I'll go straight to the next question. With you as the next Chief Justice, what will be the future of the judiciary be like?
Well,
What will the future of the judiciary be like?
well, it would conform to my vision, Your Honor, of having a unified judiciary geared towards judicial efficiency and integrity.
Okay, integrity. Now, during our interview for lower court judges, it was mentioned by some interviewees that there is a scarcity of stenographers serving in the lower courts, and according to them, this largely contributed to the backlog of cases. As the next Chief Justice, how will you address this problem in order to avoid accumulation of more cases in the lower courts?
Well, Your Honor, actually, they're now in the process of hiring contractual stenographers, and I think this will really help unclog the dockets of this court. And I think the reason why so many stenographers are retiring or getting out of the office was basically because of the continuous trial of cases where there's so much loaded with having to transcribe stenographic notes.
Or is it because of the fact that the pay scale with regards to stenographers are quite low.
Probably, Your Honor, but I think they charge certain fees for every stenographic notes that they make.
Aside from what they are being paid for by
Yes,
the
Your
Supreme
Honor.
Court.
But I think it's more of the usually heavy load of work that they are getting out of the government.
Okay. Now, in general, what is your plan to fill up the sizable vacancies for stenographers, legal researcher, records officer, property officers, and so forth in courts around the country?
But, Your Honor, we just have to post applications on the website and campaign for more, well, probably we can also upgrade their salaries to make it more attractive. And we can go on campaigning and putting them on website, the hiring of our court stenographers and other court employees.
Now, during the term of Chief Justice Sereno, there were many complaints in so far as the retirement pays of the justices are concerned. What is your take on this, assuming that you will be the next Chief Justice?
Well, Your
How will
Honor-
you implement the speedy and hastening of the benefits that will be accorded to the retired judges or the retired justices?
Actually, Your Honor, the benefits are now being taken care of more speedily because the applications for survivorship go through the court and does not pass anymore through any committee, unlike before during the time of Chief Justice Sereno. So I think it's going faster now because the applications are directly filed with the court. And, well, probably...
Which court is that?
The Supreme Court, Your Honor. And probably if there are some, if there's a need to streamline the process, then we could just coordinate with the Office of the Court Administrator.
Now, I asked this question earlier this morning, but I will ask it again of you. Since 2016, it was recorded that at least 35 lawyers, judges, and prosecutors were killed in the line of duty. The Philippine Judges Association sought the creation of a martial system in the aftermath of these recorded killings, and according to them, establishing special marshals under the supervision of the Supreme Court may help prevent further killings. Do you think this is a good solution to the problem?
Well, Your Honor, I think there should just be well, first of all, Your Honor, I do not know the reasons really why they're being killed, because there must be a reason for it. But I think we really have to guard the security of all the judges, especially the ones who are handling cases involving drugs and other heinous crimes. So I would opt more for probably more security to them than the martial officers.
You will be opting for a security in favor of?
The ones who feel that they are in danger, Your Honor.
Including judges and justices?
Yes, Your Honor.
But you are not in favor of the special marshals?
Well, I do not know, Your Honor, how much expenses will be incurred to have these special marshals. But I can check on the possibilities of this program or plan of action.
So again, it's on the financial aspect that you are
Yes, Your Honor, because there are
quite
many...
hesitant in agreeing to the establishment of the special marshal.
There are many projects and plans, Your Honor, that we can think of, but sometimes it's the budgetary and logistical concerns that would bar us from really getting into the bottom of all this.
Okay, thank you. Now, recently, the facilities in our courts had been enhanced. As Chief Justice, what will be your actions in improving further our courts?
Well, Your Honor, actually we have a budget already for infrastructure. And we're really moving on towards really establishing courts because they will expedite the disposition of cases if you have a good working condition. So I think we're up to that. We're asking Congress to really put a budget for all our infrastructures.
Any other thing?
Well, probably, Your Honor, we can also ask the local governments to support infrastructure projects and then donate them to us. Right now, we are receiving donations on land and also on buildings, Your Honor.
Now, insofar as dispensation of speedy justice, how will you enhance its efficiency?
Well, Your Honor, we really have a problem on the congestion of cases, and I think if I were to become Chief Justice, I would prioritize the crafting of the implementing rules on the Judges at Large Act, as well as the full implementation of the Family Courts Act, because right now we have only implemented the first tranche of the Family Courts Act, and there's so many designated family court judges who are hindered from performing general adjudication cases, general jurisdiction cases. And probably the decongestion can also be solved by, of course, working on the computerization program, which is somehow long-term, but well, I will support the move to really the creation of the electronic courts to make it more efficient, such that the Office of the Chief Justice and the Office of the Court Administrator would have access to the management system of the courts. And then I can also push PhilJA to have a website that would contain the training materials that were used during the training, especially for specialized courts like the special commercial courts and the family courts. It's going to be per court classification. And another thing is we can also codify the various rules of procedure contained in administrative issuances into ordinary rules of procedure for the guidance of the bench, the bar, and the public.
Thank you. Now let's go to the public's perception that there is a justice for sale. How will you address this problem? This impression, rather.
Well, Your Honor, I think everything plays when there is an opportunity, but this perception can be erased through visible results, like a speedy disposition of cases and for the courts to have a consistent rulings on cases.
Now, do you believe in this phrase, justice delayed is justice denied, can be attributable to the judge only?
Well, Your Honor, no. Everything is holistic. I mean, you have the pillars of the system, so it can be attributed to the lawyers, it can be attributed to the judge, to the counsels, and sometimes even to the litigants.
Now, I'll give you a scenario. When I was still practicing, I was still a judge. In our dockets there, we about 100 cases, 80 to 82% are criminal cases. And these are being increased daily with the disposition of several cases come in many new cases. So much so does this pile up and the dockets of the clerk increase. Now, the problem there in our place is that we had 14 RTCs in the Hall of Justice and 7 MTCCs courts, so 21 all in all. But we only had 11 prosecutors and about 9 public attorney's office. Instead of us hearing cases daily, we only hear criminal case once a week, and this continued and continued until it piled up. Now, under